My story is a story of resilience, a story of courage, and a story of perseverance. When I was in grade 2, I lost my mother, and I was only 7. The demise of my mother forced me to go and stay with my grandmother. My grandmother was a superhero. She was a mother of the house, a father of the house, and a grandmother of the house. She could make sure that we have something to eat. I and my cousin have the opportunity to go to school. And because she was old, like she couldn't have any other means of survival except farming. That situation really pushed me to start hard so that one day I can stand as I'm doing right now, giving back to the community, making sure that other girls in the community, their welfare is protected.
In the past few years, Zimbabwe has experienced a number of extreme weather events. In 2016, we experienced a regional drought, which affected most parts of the country. And more recently, we experienced Cyclone Idai, which also had devastating impacts in many parts of the country. A number of schools were washed away, whole villages essentially went underwater, a lot of people died. During the drought, families lost their assets, they lost their livestock. Climate change is causing increased frequency and intensity of extreme weather events such as droughts, such as cyclones, and women and girls are disproportionately affected by climate change.
Climate change is one of the most urgent issues of our time. It's also a social and intergenerational injustice. Those who have contributed least are the most impacted. A changing climate affects everyone, but it's the world's poorest and those in vulnerable situations, especially women and girls who bear the brunt of environmental, economic and social shocks. Nitya Rao is Professor of Gender and Development, School of International Development at the University of East Anglia.
Across societies, I think women are responsible for household maintenance, for putting food on the table, for ensuring the food security and well-being of their households. They are also engaged in the primary sectors in a majority of countries, especially in the developing world, whether it is farming or livestock raising or forest produce collection and so on. We know that with any kind of climate variability, which we are seeing increasingly, whether it's in the form of extreme events or it's in the form of drought or floods, that these affect the primary sectors the worst.
The food we consume on daily basis in the developing world, 80% of it is being produced by female farmers, which are oftentimes invisible in their category of small-scale holder farmers. Climate change has been causing hard times on small-scale farmers as it affects their production capacity, the availability of food, and the chances for them to earn a living. A lot is being expected from a woman. She shouldered many responsibilities. She's a caretaker. She has to do a lot of daily chores that includes fetching water and firewood. So if we have sudden disasters like cyclones, it is difficult for women to navigate the challenge. In case of a disaster, those kind of women can't just leave there. They are bound to stay back and protect the children, perhaps protecting their crops or their animals. Women and children, as well as girls, are 14 times more likely to die in those kind of uncertainties.
Women and girls experience the heightened social, economic and health impacts of climate change. Environmental disasters have a direct and negative impact on girls and women. Jessica Cook, Resilience and Climate Change Policy Officer, Plan International.
When families' income and ability to survive are put at risk, child marriage can be seen as a way to reduce the financial burden on the family. And there's also the belief that girls will be better protected and cared for in a marriage. And this can actually cause the early onset of certain life transitions, for example, early pregnancy, which can really trap girls in a cycle of intergenerational poverty. During and after extreme weather events, girls are at increased risk of violence and exploitation, including sexual and physical abuse and trafficking. And these risks are heightened when collecting water and firewood, which is taking an increasingly longer time, or when staying in temporary shelters. Girls are often also the last to eat, and so may experience malnutrition, which can also make them more susceptible to the different diseases that are increasing because of the climate crisis. And lack of clean water can also cause further health issues, especially when they're menstruating or when they're pregnant.
Women and girls hold the power to strengthen the world's resilience to climate change, but face a range of challenges. Gender-based violence and exploitation rises as resources dwindle, land becomes increasingly uninhabitable, and climate change intensifies.
If there are floods, it also means that the families will be forced to live in improper shelters, and that also posed another risk of increasing violence against women. You can just imagine a woman with her children in an improper structure by the night. Men can come to abuse them, or even thieves to steal from them.
I was very concerned that for younger women, they're taking into a lot of risky activities like casual sexual services, for instance, in order to earn some money to feed their young children. You find an increase in HIV taking place in the area, and lack of adequate health services, lack of childcare services, which also really puts these women at greater risk, that they need to earn money quickly because they can't leave their children for a long period of time.
Girls' education fits into this because it's both negatively affected by the climate crisis and is a key solution to tackling it. Even before COVID-19, we were a long way from gender equality in and through education, and this gap has just widened. Entrenched gender norms mean girls stand a lesser chance than boys of ever stepping foot in a classroom. If they do, this can be interrupted at any point by climate shocks and stresses, and mean they may never return to school as boys' education is prioritised over theirs. This exacerbates the gender divide, as unequal access to quality education puts girls at further risk. They have less access to information and knowledge on climate risks and the skills on how to prepare, respond and anticipate to these. Girls' education is one of the most transformative solutions for a climate just world, yet is the most overlooked, especially in climate and education policies. Not one country in the world has recognised the potential of girls' education in their national climate strategy.
I always say we rise by lifting up others. So I applied for Earth University, and with the help of my Comfort Association sisters, I made it to Earth University, where I studied agricultural sciences, international resources management. With the knowledge I gained at University, I founded Chashi Foods, and the whole 2018, we're working on a business plan and reaching the community to get to understand the magnitude of the problem. I'm just asking them if we could come up with this innovative idea and bring it to you as a solution. Are we going to get market? So the answer was yes. Through Comfort Association network, we have been also doing a lot in building climate change resilience, learning from others through a cascade system. We have a smart climate agriculture guide. We are aiming to train one community member, and that community member will go and train another community member, empower them, thus creating the ripple effect.
Dr. Christina Kwok is a fellow at the Brookings Institution working on girls' education and climate change.
Research has shown us the many positive ripple effects of educating girls, and these ripple effects extend to humanity's capacity to accelerate action for climate change. So for example, we know that education is a crucial step to girls' empowerment, and given the linkages and the root causes of the climate crisis, empowering girls through education to reach their full potential is a critical step to disrupting the social and the economic structures driving the exploitation of the planet. But to make progress towards climate justice, we really need to ensure that girls have access to quality, empowering, and transformative education. So this means, at a minimum, education must include basic knowledge of climate science, climate change, and it must include an orientation towards the development of sustainability competencies and green skills. These skills and competencies are essential for building more pro-environmental behaviors. But at its most transformative, education must be geared towards shifting the way we think about and the way we view and the way we care for ourselves, for others, and our natural world. At the same time, the transformative education for climate action is at its heart also capable of disrupting deeply held gender norms. We cannot think about rebalancing our relationship with the natural world if we view half of the population as less capable, less worthy, and less human. So this means that education has to address social inequalities, structural inequalities, economic injustices, and destructive relations of power. So we really need to see this transformation where, climate action is at the heart of education.
Lucia Fry, Director of Research and Policy at the Malala Fund.
I also think it's important for girls' education to enable them to play a role in a gender-just green transition. And that isn't just about having the kind of classic STEM type skills so that they can work in green industries. It's also about fostering environmental stewardship, questioning systems and processes which uphold processes that damage climate change. So it's about thinking about girl activists like Malala or Greta and how we can create more of those to create that better future and a better, greener economy.
The things that I believe is one of the biggest solutions to the climate justice movement in regards to feminist action as well, and that is a change in the education system. I strongly believe that the education system is too based on the regurgitation of facts to pass an exam and be lost right afterwards into the big bad world of university. It doesn't really focus on our skills and our talents. It doesn't focus on the climate justice movement. It doesn't focus on how us as Generation Z, the young women and girls of Generation Z, can actually be a part of the solution. I strongly believe that we need to integrate, redevelop, and we need to redesign a system that ensures that climate justice is being made forefront within our journey in school. I believe that we need to ensure that women and girls are being reliably informed on what the situation actually is in the ground.
If a woman is gaining a ground in education, that means she's also gaining a ground in fighting climate change issues. We need to be sustainable in the way that we farm, to be sustainable in the way that we even consume what we have farmed. The floods carrying away the crops, leaving the children vulnerable, without food to eat, destroying the sources of income for their parents to send them to school. So we have been training the mother support group in those communities on how to adopt, how to cope up with the situation, how to produce food sustainably using climate smart tools, and to promote feeding programs in schools. And we also donated things to the affected families, paying school fees, providing food to make sure that we are keeping those children in school.
When women participate in decision-making at national and community levels, they can help devise effective climate change solutions that build stronger communities. Women and girls are key to advancing climate action. Former President of Ireland, gender equality and climate justice champion, Mary Robinson.
Women and girls are absolutely essential in addressing the climate crisis. I have seen this over and over. I took part in a high-level group of women ministers on gender and climate and heads of agencies in order that we would allow and make space for the voices of grassroots women, indigenous women, and young women, because they had so much to say. And they said it. When they came into the floor, because they were part of delegations, not out in the space for civil society, they would make such a difference. And then I've worked with grassroots women who are working so hard in drought. They have to go further to get the water, but they're determined to make their communities resilient. And the way they do it is by organizing. They organize local women's groups, and that makes such a difference. And they've learned how to assert a kind of collective leadership at local level, which has got the respect of the men in the village and the young in the village, that the women are actually there driving the building of resilience of necessity. They know they have to. They know what's happening. They see it. They don't understand why it's happening often, but they know they have to deal with it. And it's their courage, it's their entrepreneurial endeavor in very difficult circumstances that I have found totally inspiring.
We really need to think about longer term measures, about creating an enabling environment which can support women's collective action. Women have been at the forefront of climate action. The symbol, of course, globally has been the young schoolgirl Greta Thunberg, who, in fact, in one of her interviews said that her parents would like her to be in school, but she was out of school protesting because she really felt that this was a crisis and parents, elders, policymakers needed to take action now. It was not something that could be postponed. And from my own work, I would like to say that this is absolutely right, because when there's any kind of climate variability or climate action, we find that women are at the forefront of resisting it and taking climate action.
Dr. Kathleen Wilkinson is a writer, strategist, teacher, and editor of All We Can Save: Truth, Courage, and Solutions for the Climate Crisis.
If we have to transform society, we need transformational leadership to get us there. And to my mind, that is leadership that is both more characteristically feminine and more committedly feminist. When women and girls are present and leading, when there is gender parity at the decision-making table, the outcomes for the planet are better. And that means the outcomes for lives, livelihoods, communities are also better.
I believe that one thing that we need to emphasize is that young women and girls are meaningfully involved when it comes to these public decision-making forums in which climate justice solutions are being taken. And one thing that we really need to put out there is that we really do have the solutions. We have the experience, we have our stories to tell, and our stories carry so much power. We have the passion and we have the energy, and we really just need to be given a chance to air out these solutions. And so we need to ensure that young women and girls are meaningfully involved and that they meaningfully participate in these public decision-making forums.
If we want to transition our economies to ones that are built off of low carbon and renewable energies and technologies, and if we want to transition our food systems and our land management systems to sustainable and regenerative models, we're not going to be able to do that fully if girls and women continue to be denied the right to a quality 12 years of quality and empowering education, if they're held back from transitioning to innovating in and leading green sector industries, if girls and women are subject to the expectation that their value and worth rests in how many sons they bear, or if they shoulder the extra burden of unpaid care and domestic work, and if girls and women continue to fear for their lives in the face of toxic masculinity and violent patriarchy.
Climate change affects everyone. Our future survival depends on our global response. So everyone has a part to play in fighting it. Women and girls are leading the call to action.
Why would we want girls to have a voice? Well, we see why. Because they don't compromise. They want us not to listen to them with their Fridays for Future, but to listen to the science. And they are not satisfied. And they don't take our incremental improvements as being adequate. And I bless them for it, because we need a strong, implacable, truth to power voice, which girls can have. And They want to have a secure future, and they are entitled to it, and they should hold us to account.
One thing I can assure you is we have the solution to world hunger in one girl somewhere. We have the solution to some of the biggest problems in one little girl, on one woman, or whoever it may be. We just need to really redesign the system to ensure we bring out that potential and that they can actually do what needs to be done.
In the next 20 years, I would like to see every girl in the community empowered, leading a successful business, being a role model to those young girls in the community, so that those young girls will grow with dreams. And they say girls with dreams, they'll become women with vision. I want every boy and every man in the society to understand that girls' education is also important for them, because it brings food in the table and a happier and healthier home, as well as the planet. I also want to see more people collaborating in sending girls to school, collaborating in empowering girls, collaborating in making sure that every girl in the society should not be left behind, and their potential or capacity to lead a successful life is tapped into.